Welcome to the Hobby of a Lifestyle podcast, a show that looks at how our passions impact lives and drive career choices. I'm Andy Gray, a former national and world champion kickboxer. During my shows, I'll be talking with athletes, coaches, fans and more as I delve into their world to find out what inspired them on their journey. Welcome to the very first Hobby of a Lifestyle podcast. My name's Andy and I'm really excited to be hosting the show. Today, I've got a very good friend of mine, Kylla Sjoman, who we've interviewed all the way over in the Czech Republic just for this first episode. So I hope you enjoy the interview. Morning. Nice to speak with you this morning.
Morning. Nice
How are
to
you
speak
this
with
morning?
you too. Yeah, I'm doing all right. I've had a bit of a crazy start, but I'm sitting in a beautiful park in Prague just now, so life's
Wow.
not too bad at all.
How's the weather over there at the moment?
It's actually lush. It's so nice. That's a little northeast for you. Lush.
I love that. Lush,
Lush,
yes,
beautiful day.
up.
I've definitely picked that up off you. So, no, it's a beautiful day, really. So I'm looking forward to enjoying the rest of our Saturday.
Fantastic. And Kylla, can you tell the audience what it is exactly you do over in the Czech Republic?
Yeah, so I am a professional footballer for Slavia Praha. I came over here, I used to play for Sunderland, even though we don't usually talk about that, do we, Andy?
Well, we don't. Being the rival team in the Northeast, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I support all the teams in the Northeast.
Exactly. But yeah, so I came over here after they restructured the WSL in England. And I came over to really just for the chance to play Champions League. And it's been an incredible experience. We had an amazing run, made it to the quarterfinals and lost against Bayern Munich.
Wow.
But yeah, and then unfortunately, I got injured at the end of the season. I tore my ACL. So this past year has just really been rehabbing and trying to get back fit. So
that wasn't the first time you've snapped the ACL neither, is it?
No, it is not.
Before.
So I've evened them out now. I've done one on each leg. So initially
Fantastic.
It was my left leg when I was at Sunderland, and then 4 years on, I did my right knee here at Slavia. So
that's a lot of rehab time. Time.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
The gym and my physio are my best friends.
I get that. So I suppose when we look at it from the beginning, really, and when did you first fall in love with football, or soccer as it's known in North America?
Yeah, so I don't know if I said, but I'm from Canada originally, and I started playing just in the backyard with my mates and my friends, and it was kind of one of my neighbor's parents said to my parents, like, oh, she's really good. She's got a great left foot. You should sign her up. And then pretty much as soon as I signed up with my first team, I just absolutely fell in love with it.
Wow.
And I was just playing all the time. And then from there, it really just kind of progressed to more and more competitive.
And how old were you when the first major team got involved and looked at signing you up and really got you, I suppose, deeper into the sport and further into it to make you think, actually, this is something I really want to pursue?
Yeah, I think actually I was quite young. I remember kind of getting scouted for one of the better teams in our district and region when I was probably about 12 or 13. And they were just a quality team. But from there, I guess it went into provincial team when I was about 15 years old. And that's when you can then get ID'd by the national team. So
okay.
I think once I got ID'd for the provincial team, I was like, oh, I can play national team. I could go to the US and get a scholarship. And I had all these ideas really, really early on, to be fair. So wow. I remember actually writing a poem when I was 10 years old about getting a scholarship to America.
Really? Wow.
So it was kind of, I don't know it off by heart. I'm sure if I'm back home with my folks sometime, I'll dig it up for you.
Amazing. Guys, stay tuned because we'll definitely try and get that poem. Fantastic. And so when did you make your first international debut at an under 15? Is it under 17s? What age were you when you made an international debut?
Yeah, so I made my international debut when I was 15.
Wow.
and it was for like the U15 national team. So it was just the youth national team at that point. I went to Missoula, Montana,
Right.
and we played the University of Montana at the time. So we're playing, 19, 20, 21-year-olds
Wow.
who were really, really great players who had been recruited to America and everything. So it was a great experience. And then from there, I went to Florida and I played my first set of international games against Germany and the U.S.
Wow. And how
When
did
I
they
was
go?
17. We did pretty well, actually. We lost to the U.S., but we tied Germany at the time. So that was the first kind of international youth tournament I had ever been in.
Wow.
But that was really exciting.
And from there, was that really a moment where you thought, this is just something that I need to be involved with, and I need to really, really push on now for the senior squad?
Yeah, I think I was just living in the moment, to be honest. I didn't have an idea like, oh, I definitely need to be playing with a senior squad. I was just loving the life I was living in. I couldn't see any other direction but pursuing this further. I don't think I had it in my head at the time being like, oh, I need to be on the senior national team, because
Yeah.
I think the attention around women's football at that time wasn't massive, and what I was doing almost felt like as high as it could go in some respects.
Okay.
And then the U19 World Cup happened, and Canada and US played against each other in Canada, and I think that's when women's football like really started to take off. I mean, obviously the '99 World Cup in the US as well, but
Yeah.
that's when Canada, I think, really put themselves on the map. And then I had that in my head, like, oh, I'd love to play for my country at the senior
Yeah.
level. So it took some time, I think, to actually get my head around that.
That's amazing. And you went to college or university down in America, down in Arizona, is that right?
Yeah, Arizona State.
And what did you do when you were at Arizona State? What course?
I studied exercise and wellness. So yeah,
Fantastic.
just sort of the exercise science and psychology kind of route of it.
And did you go down that route in a scholarship?
Yeah, so I got a soccer scholarship down there. I had a few options. I was really tempted. I had an offer from University of Hawaii,
Wow.
which, looking back, I'm just like, oh, no. I'm glad I went where I did. I had fantastic staff, and facilities were incredible, and I probably would have ended up being a beach bum if I went to Hawaii. So
Yeah, you definitely made the wrong decision. You should have went to Hawaii.
right.
Yeah, I mean, in the Northeast, you don't get anything quite as luxurious.
Yeah, not quite.
No,
I mean, you can surf in
you
Tyne.
can definitely surf in time out. Definitely
Yeah.
surf in time out. But maybe it's not to the standard that you would in Hawaii. Never mind.
Yeah.
Actually, some people do call time out the Northeast Hawaii, so we'll
Oh,
take
do
that
they
one.
now?
Yeah, they do, just for a day anyway. So I suppose looking at your hobby, how does it feel to turn your hobby into a profession? To get paid for doing something you love?
Yeah. It's a really kind of mixed emotion, amazing experience, really. I think being in women's football, it's such a unique environment. It's definitely not the same as the men, where I would say men's players turning their hobby into a profession, and they can be rewarded really well for that.
Yes.
In women's football, it is a really difficult one, because I remember getting and signing my first contract, and it wasn't the best the best circumstances.
Right.
I lived in a hotel for 11 months, and then I pretty much got like a match fee, and then I coached on the side to make some extra money.
Right.
And then there was sometimes some issues of getting paid on time and things like that, and you kind of have it ingrained in you, as you should be grateful that you're able to play. And I've had that throughout my career, when you've asked for more or you've needed more,
Yeah.
and and clubs sometimes do look at you or other people and they're like, oh, you should be grateful that you're able to play as a woman.
Really.
Yeah, I have got that.
It's
And
so crazy to think that it's worlds apart, isn't it? The male and the female game when it comes to
yeah,
the monetary side of things.
yeah, definitely. And I think like I've I've always fought more so for I just want equal resources. I understand the men are bringing in millions and millions of pounds. I
Yeah,
just want an equal environment where I can use the same facilities. I get a good living wage that I can focus on my football,
yes,
um, and just like the attention and time. So yeah, it's been a crazy transition in that regard. But no, it at the end of the day, I get to do something I love
yeah.
every day and I get to step on the pitch, and sometimes I have to just remember and wake up and I'm like, wow, I get to play football every day for my job. And
Yeah,
it's pretty awesome.
you're just living a lot of childhood dreams, really, aren't you? As you say, it's totally unfair that you maybe just don't get the same resources. You've mentioned about the money side of thing that the men's game brings in millions, but fingers crossed as we move forward in not too distant future that is balanced out and women can generate the same money and get paid the same money, or at least enough to make a really nice living from the profession, which would be fantastic, rather than
Definitely.
fight for good
Yeah.
contracts.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's an exciting time for women's football. So I think it's 100% in the right direction, and it's going to be amazing to see what happens in the next 10 to 20 years, really.
Yeah, they're really exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing how that unfolds. I suppose
Well,
we look at it, you've talked a little bit about the contractual side of the game and the different things that you've had to do in order to maybe sustain living whilst playing professional football. But what other sacrifices have you made to get to where you are? Obviously, we know you've moved over to Europe from Canada, which for me personally, I think is, although it's not a sacrifice because you're playing professional football, you still moved away from your family at such a young age. So can you just tell us about some of the sacrifices or what it's like moving away from your home country?
yeah, it has always been difficult. I think the driving factor, like you said, was like getting to play professional football, and that was always exciting. So in a lot of respects, it felt like an adventure. But there is sacrifices, like kind of the instability of having to jump out of your comfort zone and get used to new environments, new people. I've been so lucky with the people I've met along the way, but also sacrifices with relationships,
Yeah,
with friends and partners and family. Like it does put a strain on that. You know, you have sometimes a 9-hour time change between your family and trying to connect with them, and
yeah,
or relationships that are long distance and everything like that. So I've put football at the forefront to kind of try and achieve everything I want to in the game and have no regrets in that regard. But it has been challenging, and sometimes it can be, I don't want to say lonely because I am surrounded by 20 amazing women all the time, but
yeah.
there are times where it can be really challenging. You kind of have to persevere.
I can imagine. I mean, and for those listening, I've known Kyla for 7 years now, and she's been in the northeast, she's been in Scotland, she's been down in London, and now she's over in Czech. She's been to Germany, so you can hear that from a professional point of view. The sacrifices she has made have been, they've been huge. The fact she's moved around the UK and Europe just to follow her dream, play professional football. So I think that's a huge sacrifice. And what advice would you give to not just young women, but just young people in general who are potentially following in a similar path, or even just thinking about working abroad? What would your advice be to deal with moving away at such a young age?
My advice would be you really just have to embrace it. If people you have to step out of your comfort zone. People might ask you to do something, and you're not really up for it, but you just go for it and you try it, and you hang out with new people, you try new food, and you really just immerse yourself in the culture, and that's how you make it home. That's how you get the best out of the situation and you learn so much. Like I really look at the person I was 10 years ago before I made this jump overseas, and I do think I've developed a lot as a person, and I am grateful for that. So every
No, that's
challenge
fantastic.
is, yeah, you just really need to kind of take every challenge head on and enjoy it. Like, be present, understand that this is an amazing situation to be able to travel. I think everyone being at a lockdown right now,
Yeah,
they're going to appreciate traveling that much more after. So
certainly, certainly.
yeah.
I suppose I'm not going to ask you who's the best team you've ever played for, or who's the favorite
Mhm.
team you've ever played for, because I wouldn't want to do that to you, and you've probably made friendships all around Europe. But where
Mhm.
is the best place you've lived when you've been playing football? Where's been your favorite,
Um,
apart from Newcastle and meeting me, of course?
of course, I do love Newcastle. It has a special place in my heart. Um, I Glasgow always felt like home to me.
Right.
It's just an amazing city, and it's really funny when I look back at it. Like, when I was in Glasgow, it was a challenging time. I was working part time. I was playing part time. It wasn't the same environment from when I went to Sunderland. I was full time footballer, and when I went to Prague, and I'm a full time footballer.
Yeah.
But there was something about the people and the community that I built there that was really special. Um,
Fantastic.
when you look at like a city itself, Prague is just probably the most gorgeous city I've ever been, and it's crazy to think that I live here, and I've lived
Oh,
here for 2 years now.
yeah, it's beautiful. I was fortunate to come out with my wife and visit you, and it was
Mhm.
absolutely fantastic. And you showed us probably a bit of a different side to what most tourists would get to see, because you, as you say, you've immersed yourself in the culture. You've really got to grips with
Yeah.
the life, and we had an absolutely fantastic time. So if anyone's thinking about traveling to Prague, I can certainly recommend that. But
Yeah, definitely. It
this is
was
a
a
hobby
great
show
that
and not
was
a
a great
travel
trip.
show.
Yeah.
I don't mind. So when you're not in rehab for having
Mhm.
ACL injuries, what does a typical day in the life of Kylla Sjoman look like?
So a typical day, our training schedule is a little bit different here in Prague, at least, because not our entire team is full time. So
Okay,
there are still players who are at school or they have part time jobs.
okay,
Like I said before, I am fortunate enough that I am full time here. But so usually in the morning, I get up, I do a workout, I go to the gym, do some stuff with our strength coach, and then I have a few hours to myself through the day. I'm doing a little bit of work on the side, trying to prepare for my life after football. And then we have training typically in the evening around 5:30. So
okay.
I leave my place around 4 o'clock, go to training, um, finish about 7, 8 o'clock, and then I'm home, have some food, chill out for a bit, watch a little Netflix, and
Oh, what you
then
watching at the moment? What's your
repeat.
go-to on Netflix at the moment?
Oh, you know what? I've been RuPaul's Drag Race probably.
Okay,
I don't know if
right.
you've watched it, but it's
I
fantastic.
haven't watched it. I haven't.
Oh, I
Although
really really recommend it.
we watch a program. Well, my wife watches a program, and it's one of those ones that's kind of drew me in. And there is someone off RuPaul's Drag Race in there, so
Really?
gives me an idea of what it's about.
Yeah, no,
Anyway,
it's
um,
entertaining. What are you guys watching?
Nicola has me watching. Is it X on the Beach? Peak of Love?
Oh
Can't believe I've
wow.
said that live. It's out there. It's out there now. But yes, it's one of those sort of programs
Mhm.
that draws you in, and you think, should I really miss that? Because I might miss something entertaining. So
World champion kickboxer at home watching X
I
on the
know. That's
beach.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's one of those. You look at your profession as a footballer. I wouldn't say I was unfortunate or fortunate. Mine was a
Mhm.
hobby. Kickboxing was always a hobby to me. I never really looked at pursuing that or progressing into a professional ranks.
Mhm.
Um, which is really where this hobby of a lifestyle podcast has come from. And I
Mhm.
never felt compelled to compete at a paid level. I could have went down
Mhm.
that way. I think if I was going to go down that route in order to make money, I would have had to have looked at mixed martial arts when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
been fortunate. I've trained with some fantastic people and sparred with some fantastic people who are now fighting in or have been world champions in UFC, or they're
Mm-hmm.
fighting in Bellator. It's been fantastic to be on the same circuit as some of those fighters, and as I say, spar with some of them in the England teams or the GB teams. But it was
Mm-hmm.
never something I looked at. Kickboxing I was fortunate to win a couple of world championships, but it was always a hobby. It was
Yeah.
always just kicking and punching. I never looked at it as I want to pursue that as a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been fantastic to get paid for as an amateur sport. It would have been great that if it had been
Yeah.
funded to get paid for that. And then I think that would maybe change the mindset.
Yeah. Has it
Yeah.
changed for kickboxing now? Like,
Um,
so say with your level, like you're a world champion kickboxer, and it seems wild to think that there wasn't all that funding and support at that time.
I think it's changed. It's changing definitely, and I would say that
Mm-hmm.
WACO, the World Association of Kickboxing Organisation, they're very much at the forefront of how that's going to change.
Mm-hmm.
The problem I feel with kickboxing, this is only my opinion, it's diluted now, and there's a lot of world championships, and for me that's a big issue. And when
Right.
I used to compete years ago, there was maybe 2 or 3 really big organisations, and
Mm-hmm.
they were the only ones that were out there. Similar to the boxing now, where they've got 3 or 4 really big world organisations. Everybody knows who they are, but now
Yeah.
there seems to be a new world kickboxing organisation popping up left,
Mm-hmm.
left, right, and centre every couple of months, which I feel is a huge shame for the sport. And I know you get
Mm-hmm.
good fighters in all of these competitions, but it's so diluted that you don't get the right amount of quality, which is
Yeah.
a huge shame for the sport. But yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
but I think WACO are definitely at the forefront of leading that and taking it forward. The competitions they run they're just globally huge. They're brilliant, and the organisation is fantastic of every tournament that they run. So fingers crossed, it'll certainly become the Olympic sport in the
Yeah.
future. That would be absolutely fantastic as a start. So we'll see what happens with that. But fingers crossed, it does come to that. You've talked about living in the moment and your aspirations starting out with very much just to play football, and once you got into the provincial squad, that actually I might be able to make a play for my country, but it was always
Mm-hmm.
very much at that level. I'm not looking further and further. What are your
Yeah.
aspirations within the sport now, as
Mm-hmm.
it stands?
Yeah, I guess the last couple of years I'm 32 now, and I'm turning 33 in August, and I'm looking towards the end of my career. I think coming over to Prague and getting to play Champions League was something I really, really wanted to accomplish before I retire.
Yeah.
That was kind of a main goal. And now I'm in a position where I just want to be back playing. So I had my first training session this week. So that's kind of, my goals are small now. I'm really just trying to live in the moment, enjoy the sessions as they come, and put myself in a position that I want to stay involved in football, in the regards that I want to keep growing the women's game.
Okay.
Um, so I've kind of been reaching out my networks and just trying to have some more impact that I can pursue when I finish playing.
I mean, you've sort of answered the next question that I was moving on to.
Oh,
So
okay, sorry.
no, that's fantastic. So listening there, it's almost like you've come full circle from being that 14, 15-year-old girl who was playing football for a country, but just living in the moment, just enjoying a football, to then
Yeah.
having aspirations for the future, move forward, to kind of, as you say, maybe winding down the career now and coming towards the tail end of that and being just, actually, I'm enjoying football again, and
Yeah.
going back to being that little girl who played when they were 14, 15, just enjoying the moment and looking forward to each training session and seeing what happens. I think that's fantastic. But as you've just said there about moving on after the game, what are your aspirations? What are your sort of career goals, or what is it you're looking to do when you do finally hang up the boots?
Mm-hmm. I I wish I could just give you a straight answer, but I'm sure you and I have had many conversations over the past like 6-7 years of
Yes.
me being like, Andy, what am I going to do when I stop playing
Yeah,
football?
we've had lots of them, lots of them.
We've had quite a few, and he is a really great listener, and he's always seen me through my panics, so I appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome.
But currently I've been working with a charity called Coaches Across Continents,
Okay.
who work with using sport for social impact. So they work globally. They're in 60 different countries, impacting
Wow.
millions of children, and it's all situated around the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals.
Wow.
So my passions and what I would love to give back and empower communities and people is through gender equality, quality education, and just providing those resources. Sorry, getting that cough again as well. But yeah, and I think using sport, and I hope sometime my story of, you know, being a female footballer in this massive time of transition of the game, I can help other people kind of keep pushing and pursuing their passions and their hobbies. Really, I just want people to enjoy the game and get the most out of it, what in whatever respect that is. It doesn't have to be always at the highest, most competitive level. I
Yeah.
think this podcast is so exciting because people's hobbies really dictate the way they live and the relationships they build and what they're passionate about and what is important to them. So I think it's really cool.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, that was very much the idea behind it. I looked at, I'm going to have a couple of my other friends on who I kickboxed with
Mm-hmm.
from being young, and our lives, you know, none of us are professional kickboxers. Won world championships, major tournaments around the world, but it's looking at how those hobbies impacted maybe his lifestyle choices, how they've impacted on career choices. And
Mm-hmm.
without going into too much what they do, you know, they're very different what they do career wise. Some people,
Mm-hmm.
you know, people fall into things because of family or because. So it really, this podcast is about exploring how somebody's hobby just impacted on the rest of life. I mean, you're so fortunate that your hobby became your profession. I know you've had the struggles and the sacrifices around pay and equal pay and moving away, but ultimately at the end of the day, you are a professional footballer. When somebody asks you what you do for a career, you can say I'm a professional footballer, which is just, you know, you just live in so many children's dreams. And I think it's really important that it's highlighted, you know, especially from a female point of view, that, you know, living your dream isn't always going to be flash cars, big houses. It's going to be a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of dedication, trying to transition with the times, as you know, and hopefully as the game and the world evolves, that women's football will be on a, a better equal pay with the
Mm-hmm.
male game, so that women can go and live those lifestyles the same as a male would.
Yeah, definitely. It when I look back at my career, it hasn't been the safe option
Yeah,
by any means. You know, it's been lots of up and downs, highs and lows. You know, I kind of like look at my career, and this is one of those moments, and I think it's common for a lot of female footballers. But I had represented Canada, played in my hometown in Vancouver in front of 22,000 people, and 2 months later I was like working in a bar and
wow.
trying to play as well part-time. So you know, it's been a lot of highs and lows, and I could have hung up the boots a lot earlier and probably, you know, had a house that I own and, you know, been a bit more settled in my life. But at the same time, I've had so much adventure,
Yeah,
so
I mean,
many incredible experiences that I
yeah.
wouldn't I wouldn't take it back.
I don't know anyone who can go anywhere, pretty much anywhere in the world, and make a phone call and just have somewhere to stay. The networking you've done is absolutely incredible. So I don't really want to focus on regrets, because I think you should really, should you have regrets? I don't really feel you should regret anything unless it's something that you have done. But I suppose,
Mhm.
what if you had one regret, or if you had one thing in your career you could change, what would it be?
um I have looked at this a few times and like been like, oh, what if I had made that decision first? I think when I first came over to England, I had an opportunity to trial with Chelsea, or I had a secure contract with Doncaster Rovers Bells, and it was like the first year the WSL launched. And I think for me at that time, it was like a huge jump, just me moving across the world to England from Canada, and I wanted that little bit of security.
Yeah.
But once I got over in our first game against Chelsea, we played, the manager of Chelsea at the time, Matt Beard, he actually went up to my manager and he was like, oh, I really like that left back. And then when I look back, I'm like, oh man, I should have just tried. I should have just tried for Chelsea. But you know, at the same time, I can't regret it because it's taken me on this wild adventure. I you know, if I had gone to Chelsea, I may never have met you. And I look at those experiences and it brings so much more. And I'm really grateful for the way everything's turned out.
No, that's fantastic. And you've mentioned playing for the national team there. So how many caps did you get for Canada?
I only got 2 caps. I was in 4 different camps with them, which was really exciting. So even the games that I didn't play, that I was on the bench for, it was France, and then I got my first cap against England, and then I was in when we played against the USA back in Canada, which was just a wild game to be in. You know, like the USA are world champions, and just being in that environment, and even though I didn't get on the pitch, it was still just a mind-blowing experience.
I can imagine. But the Canadians, obviously, they got a 3rd place in the 2012 Olympics as well, didn't they? So they're bronze medalists.
Yeah.
So, you know, they're no slouches when it comes to
No,
football.
definitely. Like, and that's what happened. Actually, they had just got their bronze in the Olympics when I went into camp. It was probably about 6 or 7 months after for the first time. And I was just shaking. Like, I was so nervous because I was like, oh my gosh, all these people are Olympic bronze medalists. Like, this is mind-blowing. But and then I don't know if you know who Christine Sinclair is, but she's actually, she's the leading goal scorer in men's or women's international football. I think she has like 187 goals.
Wow, that's an incredible record.
So playing alongside her, she's on another level, really. She is, and she's so humble, and she's just a class act. She's really fantastic.
Wow, that's fantastic. And I bet you just that winning mentality and aura that she gives off just motivates and inspires those around her.
Yeah, definitely.
So what is your career high?
Career high? Yeah, definitely is here in Prague with the Slavia. When we played Bayern Munich at home in the Champions League, there was probably, and women's football it's definitely not on the same scale as men's football, and we usually have a separate stadium to the men's team. But for this game and all of our Champions League games, we play in our men's stadium, which is just like a beautiful, beautiful stadium. It's lovely. And so we had just under about 10,000 people at the game.
That's amazing.
All the men's ultra fans were there. It was really just like an incredible atmosphere.
And what was the atmosphere like in camp once you played that game?
Sorry, prior to the game or
after that game? You know, I'm assuming some of the ladies, especially the ones who you mentioned are still in school, will never ever have had the chance to play in front of 10,000 people before.
Yeah. Well, I think there's an amazing interview. I'll have to like give you the link to it in the show notes or something, because we were down against Bayern Munich 1-0, and there was about 15 minutes left in the game, and one of my teammates, Katarina, I'm gonna butcher her last name, so I'm just gonna leave that for the show notes as well. Anyway, she's 21, she's in university at the minute, she's an absolute star. Definitely have to get her name right so everyone knows it. But anyways, we'll she scored a worldie of a goal from like about 30 yards out.
I remember watching the score.
To tie Bayern 1-1 in the quarterfinals. And she was interviewed after the game, and she's in tears in the interview. She's so emotional. It was her birthday,
Oh, wow.
and we just had this amazing game, and they're like, "So how are you going to go celebrate?" And she's like, "Well, I have an exam tomorrow, so I'm going home to
Oh,
finish
bless.
studying."
Oh,
And like she had to go to school first thing at 8 o'clock in the
bless.
morning.
Oh, never.
Um,
But
but
what a day she would have had at school the next day.
yeah, definitely.
Wow. What a way
So
to celebrate.
yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. So
Oh,
we're saying
sorry,
Champions
I'm
League
just gonna get it right. It is Katerina Spitkova.
spit
S-
cover.
Spitkova. Oh, so Czech.
Yeah, you've said that. I'm not going to try and repeat that one again. I'll only get
Yeah,
it wrong.
you can understand why I tried to hesitate on saying it. So
100%, 100%. But there you go. She got a shout out on the podcast. So she'll make
definitely,
sure she listens. She can
I
listen.
will have her.
No, that's absolutely fantastic. So that's we've looked at that. Your career highlights are certainly your caps that you got for Canada, and then reaching the quarterfinals against Bayern Munich in the Champions League, which is just an amazing accomplishment. Did you think you would get that far in that tournament?
No, especially when I first came over, I really didn't know what to expect. We played FC Rosengard in the round before that, and they're an amazing team. They've been to the Champions League final before. Marta used to play for them, and so they're a really established club. And we just played fantastic. Like the girls played out of their mind against them, home and away, and so that game was almost even more exciting
Yeah,
because we just played so incredible, and then to reach the quarterfinals. Unfortunately, we didn't play so well when we played away at Bayern, but that initial home game was one that I will remember for the rest of my life.
wow, yeah, that's just incredible achievement to get there.
Thank you.
Well, I'm conscious that you're sat in the park with the birds, and you've got work to do. So, Kylla Sjoman, I just want to say a huge thank you for coming on today, and telling us a little bit about you and your hobby of a lifestyle.
Thanks so much for having me, Andy. I love this podcast, and I can't wait to subscribe and listen to all your interviews for the future.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
All the best.
Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to this very first episode of Hobby of a Lifestyle. I hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you soon.